And as always, great to spend some time every month with Wharton Emeritus Professor of Finance Jeremy Siegel, who's also a senior economist at Wisdom Tree. Jeremy, obviously, lots to discuss since we last talked. I guess let's start with the SCOTUS decision on tariffs and obviously the potential impact that it's going to have on the markets, on the economy, and such. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, wow. I mean, we knew it. The prediction market said it was going to be nixed, but we didn't quite know how. um, let's say where we stand. Obviously, what he has gone to is Section 122, which he first said was going to put at 10%, and then he realized that the max was 15, so why not go to 15%?
Right.
Which then he went to on Saturday. Um, that does lower the average a couple of points from what it was under the IEPA tariffs, particularly from China and several other Asian countries. Of course, it raises it on several like the UK, which negotiated a 10% raise. Um, uh, uh, Remember, Trump likes to go in with a big stick
Yeah.
and then go down from there. So now his at least by using that, his big stick isn't quite as big. However, he has lots of other powers. I mean, he has powers to declare embargoes on certain uh, um, uh, goods. He has a number of other authorities that he can use. One of the scariest authorities he can use is the Section 338 that goes from the Smoot-Hawley tariff of 1932, which of course, was one of the most damaging tariffs we've had. That allows up to 50% with no requirement of federal agency and no limit on duration. Now, that would be extreme,
Yeah.
but he has that in the back pocket if he wants to use something like a hammer to do that. Let's talk about what the consequences are likely to be. I don't think the final tariffs are going to be all that much different from what they would negotiated. I know there's some. I think the ones that haven't negotiated will go through. He can still, as I say, hey, listen, I have other powers that can be much more than 15% if I want to use them, and therefore I think he's going to proceed along those same lines. A big question mark, of course, is the refunds, which was
Yeah.
unfortunately not specified by the Supreme Court. And by the way, this decision should have come 6 months ago. I mean, there was no there was no evidence they had to find or search for anything like that. I mean, it was right in the text to begin with, and we would have avoided a lot of hardship and mess, as Justice Kavanaugh, in fact, used that very word. So there's a whole question of the refunds that could be litigated for months, if not years. So there's more uncertainty because exactly what rates are going to be and how are things has been put a monkey wrench. However, I don't think the final outcome is going to be all that much different.
Right.
And I think the economy actually looks fairly good looking forward.
Yeah, and since the last time we talked to you, the Dow has crossed 50,000. The S&P, I think, dipped across 7,000 in an intraday and then headed back. The markets have been fairly resilient to all of the stuff that has gone on out there, whether it be the tariff impact or some of the global events that have gone on as well.
Yeah. I mean, the big event coming up, I think, is Iran, obviously, and how he's going to act on that. That's the next, I think, really significant thing that affects oil and a lot of others. We don't know what he's going to do and how he's going to negotiate that. One of the speed bumps, as we know, Kevin Warsh being appointed
Yeah.
is a favorable sign. So, and the government shutdown was avoided in Maine, but there's still TSA, and flights that could be disrupted if this go on for several months, but that is sort of in the background. The government is funded outside of Homeland Security all the way till September 30th, so that's more on the back burner. I would
Yeah.
say the Iran thing is the big thing coming up. I wish I could predict what's going to happen, but I cannot. I think the tariff thing is really going to fade into something that is not going to be that much different than what the levels we would have seen under IEPA.
Since you mentioned Kevin Warsh, let me ask you your thoughts on Mr. Warsh as the next Fed chair, assuming that his nomination goes through in Congress.
I like him. I liked him as among the four choices. I thought he was the best. So I was pleased that Kevin Warsh, I mean, he's a man that's been on the Fed for quite a number of years. During the financial crisis under Bernanke, he's a smart guy. How he won't take over the meeting until the June meeting, which is quite a bit from now, when we're going to have, there's so much that can happen between now and then. We don't know how how he's going to react. I will stick with my feeling that I had, I think, in the last month. I still think we have a ways to go down on the Fed funds rate. I would like to see 2 more cuts. I'd like to see the Fed fund rate in the low 3s,
Right.
and going forward. But whether it's done, next meeting or 2 or 3 meetings from now is not that significant.
Well, and interesting you mentioned that, because there were comments by Christopher Waller earlier today, as we taped this on a Monday, that he can see that if there is some issues with the labor data the next couple of times we get reports, that he could see the Fed going to move to a cut. So it seems like
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's completely data dependent. If we see some weak data now, we see some weak labor market data, which we have not so far.
Yeah.
We have not seen weak labor market data. I mean, those jobless claims are remaining in there. We think the equilibrium amount of monthly payroll gains is somewhere in the neighborhood of 40, 50,000. We've been in that area, but it could deteriorate. Certainly, and if it does deteriorate, there'll be no question that there would be a cut. But I think they're holding firm if we see the type of labor market data that we have actually seen over the last 3 months.
So obviously Iran is the top thing on your radar right now. Anything else that is really drawing your attention as well?
I think Iran is definitely the big thing. I mean, there's going to be a lot of churning and a little bit more uncertainty as a result of these tariffs, but I would not. I would use that uncertainty, I think, is a buying condition. I think the market is still going to go up here in 2026, because I don't think the final outcome of the tariff. In fact, I think it's welcome that there was a limit put on the president. He can't just throw around any rate that he wants. Again, in his back pocket, he has a few nuclear options here with the Smoot-Hawley tariff and embargoes that he could use as a big stick. But at this particular point, doesn't look like he is wanting to use those.
Jeremy, always great to catch up. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Dan.
You got it. Jeremy Siegel, who is Professor Emeritus of Finance here at the Wharton School and Senior Economist at WisdomTree.